Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to a new edition of the
What
Sports
up?
Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter. And to my far right, I got my co-host, Kevin Johnson, KJ.
Right,
And
right.
today's special guest, we got a Hokie in the house tonight. Yes,
Right.
sir. We got a former Virginia Tech player from Virginia. He
Seth,
played offensive line. Now he's a philanthropist. He has his own
Yeah.
podcast called the
making big moves.
757 Vick
Right.
Show. These guys
Yeah,
are going up
yeah,
with it.
VA.
They're giving back to the kids, and they're actually connecting with everybody in Virginia Tech, getting everybody to bring the kids to the forefront and show them how to do this thing, man. So we want to welcome today's special guest, former VTech lineman, Dwight. Vick, what's
What's up?
going
What's
on,
Hey,
up?
Vick?
man. Hey, I appreciate the intro, man. That was a lot of energy, man. The little highlight montage, that was good, man. The music had me ready to go. I was looking for my helmet. I was in here looking for my pads, man, and looking
Yeah,
for some
man. Let's do it
competition,
again.
man. Hey, that was really dope, man. That was really good, man. But I'm happy to be in the building, man. I'm happy to be on with you both, man. I'm blessed right now. I'm doing
That's
good.
right.
Same here, man. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing your blessings with us. For the people that don't know you, let them know where you're from and a little bit about your background, Dwight.
Yeah, man. So I'm from the Tidewater area, for people outside of Virginia, that's the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, Tidewater area, aka the 757, known for
Newport.
some Newport News,
Yeah.
Portsmouth, Suffolk, Norfolk, Hampton. Um, so it's
Lot
one
of
of those things, man. Yeah, I grew up down by the water, man, and grew up in Newport News and also Hampton. Moved to Hampton probably when I was around middle school, whatever, and then I jumped on and the rest is history, man. Had a great childhood, um, played against some great players, also experienced a great life, a great set of parents, and also really, really great family, man. So, Tidewater is still a area rich with history. It's not just about sports, but also some great actors and entertainers. The same area where, Pharrell is from, Missy Elliott, Timberland, the Clips, all those guys. If you were a hip hop head, Frankie
Yep.
Faison, the actor. Matter of fact, man, God rest his soul, the guy that hosted, the America's Funniest Videos, man. So,
Bob Saget.
yeah.
yeah, he grew up down there. He wasn't born there, so it's an area rich in history, man. And I'm proud of it, man. And it's funny. I was down there growing up, and I was just a kid, and we were just in the area where you just growing up. Next thing you know, as you get older, you realize, wow, I'm part of something bigger than me, something real special, man. So
Yeah.
that's the area I'm from, man. And I had a great life growing up down there.
That's
Yeah,
what's up.
man.
That's what's up.
For
Yeah. Hey, growing up in VA as a kid, what sport was your first love?
Oh, this is a great question, man. What's interesting, man. My favorite sport is not football; it's basketball. Um, yeah,
Okay.
people
That's
don't
very enough.
realize that, man. Yeah, I played for middle school basketball. Got cut in seventh grade. Came back in eighth grade. I started, but AAU back in the late '80s and '90s, throughout the '90s, it was much different than it is now across the country. Meaning, like each state only had a few teams. So I played for a couple of Boo Williams teams, the legendary Boo Williams, and basketball. I was a big Grant Hill fan. Also, didn't really have a favorite NBA team, but at the time I followed the Detroit Pistons and those guys, man. So
Oh, yeah.
basketball back then. I was not anti-Jordan, but I was just more of a Pistons fan because I like their physical style of play. But I often joke all the time saying, basketball was my favorite sport, but I had to marry football given my size and and all of that, whatever, because of my shoulders and I mean, I was,
DNA. Yeah.
yeah,
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 man. Yeah, you
13,
gotta be
13 years old wearing a size 13, man. So
Wow.
it's one of those things, where, I just was growing and but basketball is my favorite sport. Don't get it twisted. I love football, but I love basketball, man. I have an AU program I coach now, and we got like 4 or 5 teams under our program. So, um, football and basketball, and even track back home, tennis, sports is big, but basketball was something I really was drawn to at an early age.
mm,
Okay. So
okay.
you say you was a big Grant Hill fan. So did you like Duke?
Of course I did. And you know what? I
Ah.
know people yeah. And I know people um, either love or hate Duke. But
Or
you have to
hate.
understand,
Yep.
for me,
That's how it
I,
is.
I, I get it, I
Roll
get it. But
Tide.
if you're hated, that means you're relevant. And that means you're usually really good. People don't hate irrelevant NBA or college or pro or high
There
school
you go.
teams. So, but I didn't just jump on the bandwagon. You gotta remember, I'm a '70s baby. So, my
Okay.
mom and dad were living in North Carolina. I was born in Durham. My sister was born in Raleigh. So one day
Oh.
I was a youngin. I was like 8 years old, and I was watching the NCAA tournament. I kind of had it on, just looking at it, playing with my, whatever. And my mom was like, "Oh, you like them? You know, you were born there." I was like, "For real?" And she was like, "Yep." And at the time, I was one of the biggest babies they ever had there. So,
Oh. You
yeah,
had
it
to.
was,
You had to
at
rep
that
your
time I
city.
was, yeah. So then I was like, I'm going, go for Duke. And it was funny. At that time, I started liking them. That's when they started descending. Coach K, I liked them before they won their first national championship. I remember in high school watching Grant Hill catch that oop from Bobby Hurley when he had the flat
Yep.
top with no fade.
Yep.
He had the flat top
Yep.
with no fade, and
No
Hurley threw him
fade.
the oop. Yeah, he didn't, and
I
he's a
call that the
Northern
fresh.
Virginia
That
guy.
was the Fresh Prince.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he caught that oop against Kansas, and they won their first one, and they repeated the following year when they beat the Fab Five, and it was tough, man, because I grew up in an urban area, so
Yeah.
everybody back in those days were UNLV fans, and then the following few years they were Michigan fans. So here I am growing
Hmm.
up in an urban area, man. I'm rocking with Duke, and people were like, "Bro, man, why you messing with them?" Because they had Hurley, and everybody hated Leitner. But it was one of those things, man. Always been different. Don't get it twisted. I love watching UNLV. I mean, who didn't?
Yep.
UNLV and the Fab Five were trendsetters. They changed the culture.
Yep.
They
Yep.
changed basketball. I just wish those guys were able to have those NIL deals you have now. I mean, I really feel like
Yeah.
they would have
Woo.
benefited from it because they were so
For
special,
real.
so great, man. So, at the end of the day, man, I was a fan of Duke, and I was a fan of college basketball. I mean, I feel like the tournament NCAA tournament every year is just must see television. It's
Mhm.
just it's just one of those things, man, where you can't miss it. Like even in the round of 32 or the 16 versus the one, I love it, man, and I love college basketball.
Yep. Angelita Dozer said, "I will tell my sister you like Duke."
Hey, yo, shout out to Angelita. Shout out to Angelita,
Yeah.
man.
Thanks
She's my
for
homegirl
tuning
from
in,
around the way,
Angelita.
man. I grew up
Yeah.
with her, man. She's a great woman, man. We were friends all throughout middle school. Her sister went to Duke, Eileen. I remember seeing
Okay.
her on TV, man. And Angelita went to one of my rival high schools, Kickintown, man. But we used to catch the bus together. And then she went to Kickintown. I went to Hampton, man. I think she went to Hampton University, I believe. And great person, man. So shout out to Angelita, man. I'm glad she's jumping on.
That's
All
what's
right,
up.
Angelita. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Um, so talk about making that transition from basketball to football at 13. How was that for you?
You know, it was one of those things, man, where it wasn't hard because I really didn't have any expectations. I didn't really have any idea. These kids now are like, they specialize and they're told as early as 6, 7, 8 years old, their parents, regardless of their parents' athletic background, they're told that you're going to do this. They get them trainers and all of that. We ain't have all that. You played outside. Your water bottle was the water hose. So, I played
Straight
both
up.
sports growing up. I remember being at Hampton High, and they pretty much saw me walking in the hallways my ninth grade year. Coach Mike Smith is a legendary Hall of Fame high school coach. He just retired after coaching 51 years. So he won
Okay.
12 state
Mm.
championships, two national championships, been to numerous regional championships and district titles. So he see me walking around the hallway. He was like, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "We're going over the open gym." He said, "The hell you are!" And they told me, him and the line coach, Coach Danny Mitchell, God rest his soul, told me to go in the weight room and get a physical form. Back then they just grabbed your arm. They just told you what you were going to play. And then I jumped in there, man, and
Wow.
I grabbed my physical form and took it back home. Went and got a physical. Came back, and I had no idea. You got to remember something, man. Maybe you don't know this, but I was 13 years old in the ninth grade. I didn't turn 14 till later on that year. I graduated high school at 17. So
Mm.
I had the
Oh,
size and the height and the ability. I was athletic and big and tall, but I was a youngin.
yeah,
So
yes.
case
Hmm.
in point, I was
Mhm.
13 in the ninth grade, when most of my
Mm.
peers were 14, some
50.
15. So
Wow.
looking back, I probably should have started and reclassed back because I remember the first day. This is back during you had two a days when two a days was like, 5 in the morning,
Painful.
5:30 to like 10:30, 11 o'clock, and you came back and you went from like 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the heat, and there was
Mhm.
no cold red, cold orange. If a guy passed out, they poured water on him. You got back up. I hate to sound like it was inhumane, but it was just different back then, man. And we were part of some, physical practices, and I had no idea what I was doing. I played, rec ball at Aberdeen with the Raiders, so I had skill. I knew what I was doing, but back then, again, if you didn't know what you were doing, you got coached up. But they focused on the kids that knew what they were doing. So I played at the same rec team that Allen Iverson did, and other guys like that. But I didn't have a long history of playing youth football. Probably more history playing basketball, and that but I caught on quick. I mean, I made varsity as a freshman at 13, turned 14 later that year. And then I was part of a great program that always won state championships or played for them and won district and regional titles. So I just watched the guy ahead of me and I just did what the OGs were doing. I just followed along, learned how to block. And then I was on offense as a backup, played in a lot of games because we blew a lot of teams out. And I learned how to play defense. And then, I just pretty much just started paying attention. I just started like, really, really understanding the game for what it was and just trying to, make sure I didn't mess up because I didn't want to get in trouble. Because again, you got in trouble back then. You had to bear crawl and you had to
Extra.
run
Crab.
extra.
Yeah.
So you made sure you didn't mess up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Hmm. Yep. So talk about growing up in Virginia and playing amongst with so many stars. Like you had Allen Iverson coming out of there, Dre
Mhm.
Bly, Michael Vick.
Okay.
You already named the hip hop people that came from that area. Talk about some of those guys. And did you actually play them in high school?
So Mike is my younger cousin. Mike is younger than me, so he played alongside Ronald Curry. So like with him,
Ronald Curry.
I yeah, I
Right.
didn't play. Ronald Curry and Mike are 4 years younger than me. So when I was a senior, they were in eighth
Okay.
grade. I played against man, crazy. I played against some of the greatest players ever, man. In the high school, in the Virginia high school level, I played against Aaron Brooks, who went on to go to UVA and went
Aaron
on
Brooks,
to
Saints.
the New Orleans Saints. Um, of course, we already mentioned Allen Iverson. Um, and then, again, who else, man? Gosh, you're taking me back. I played against a guy, Brandon Noble, who was at First Colonial, who went on to play with Penn State. He had a few years with the Washington football team. Don't want to get in trouble. Goodness, man,
What
so many
about Dre
guys.
Bly?
My teammate, Dre Bly, that played against him in college. Dre Bly was across the water at Western Branch. He's also a few years younger than me, so I didn't play him, but he was
Okay.
down there when I was playing. There was
Okay.
another guy down there named. I mean, I'll name some of my teammates. Myron Newsom. Myron Newsom went on to Virginia Tech with me after going to JUCO, and he ended up going to Virginia Tech. And I remember we played Nebraska, and Tom Osborne called him the best linebacker in the country. Said if he was a few inches taller, he would be an all a first round draft pick. So I
Okay.
mean, the Friday nights down there, man, there was so many guys, man, that Morocco Brown, he went to Kickintan. Morocco Brown is now, I think he's close to being a GM in the NFL. He went to NC State. His brother's
Hmm.
Marseille Brown. His older brother is Milan Brown. He's an assistant basketball coach with the Pittsburgh, not Pirates. What are they called? The Pittsburgh Panthers, where the coach from Duke is now the head coach there, Coach Capel. So he's Capel's assistant.
Okay.
Um, Macy Brooks, who went to Kickintan. Macy Brooks was a guy that he was a 6'4", 6'5" wide receiver who also played DN. Went to James Madison. Ended up playing for the Dallas Cowboys for a few years. So I mean, I probably after we do this podcast, I'm gonna remember some people I forgot, but the area was crazy. You're talking about guys that were older than me and even behind me. Dwight Hollier, who ended up playing for the Dolphins. Terry Kirby. These are guys that were older than me that
Terry
also
Kirby.
went on to do great. Terry Kirby, Chris Slade was from down there. Plexico Burris is from down there. So it's just
Okay.
bananas when I think about the legacy that was
Wow.
laid before me and the legacy after me. I mean, at my high school alone, you're talking about Dwight Stevenson, who's an NFL Hall of Famer, and you're talking about a guy that was my teammate named Sean Hamlin. He went on to Florida State. One season, he had 16 interceptions as a free safety. Went to Florida State and
Wow.
played with Charlie Ward. So, I mean, I didn't know what I was part of until I got older, and I look back like, yo, this was crazy. Like, I really played with some, some really great players, man. So, um, it was a special deal. It was a special deal.
Cool, cool.
Hey, talk a little about your high school head coach. What kind of guy was he?
Um, my high school. Hold on, let me adjust my stuff real quick. You mind if I take my headphones off?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Get comfortable.
All right, I'm getting. All right.
Now we can't hear you. You just muted yourself. There you go.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We can hear you. You good?
Yeah. Mike Smith, man. Mike Smith, Coach Mike Smith. I mean, he's probably one of the best football minds and football coaches ever been around. As far as just his ability to engage players. I mean, we were watching film. My preparation was crazy because we were in a place where, back then, this is the 90s. So like, we didn't have all this high profile technology. So we were able to really just like during lunchtime, depending on what lunch you had, you went to his office and you watched film. And he was ahead of his time where he would break down every tendency our opponent would have and do where we were really just ahead of everybody we played. So, all those great players I told you that played in the Peninsula District that were really good, that were loaded with talent, we knew what they were going to do. So you're playing Aaron Brooks, who had guys like Alonzo Darden, Eric Jones, and another guy, Smith, I think, or Jones, Eric Jones. Aaron Brooks in high school, he played for the legendary coach Tommy Reeman, who's at Lansdowne now. I think he just retired. Great coach. They were going 4 and 5 wide receivers. And we were in a situation, man, where we knew everything they were going to do. They ran a run and shoot the spread before the spread was really popular. Um,
Okay.
Coach, man, he was hard nosed. Like, I mean, if you asked for a water break and there won't time for one, he would make the whole team crab the field for 100 yards. And but at the same time, contrary to popular belief, he cared about his players. So, like, I mean, he wanted to see everybody be successful. But I think it's one of those things where, for a lot of people, everybody couldn't play for him. And that was a good thing because some guys weren't mentally or physically tough enough. So
Yeah.
it's just
You
one of
go.
those things, man, where, like, for me, I was really happy to play for him because once I started to realize like how smart I was, my football IQ, the players we were going against, we were just dominant. And people said we cheated and we recruited. What it was, we outworked
Wow.
them. Like we were in a situation where like we were just in a position to be successful. Like we just knew where to line up. And the one thing I respect about him that I realized even as a father and as a coach is preparation and discipline will be and win most of the time. And he also believed in keeping his best players on the field at all times. So Coach Mike Smith kept his best players. So like I play offense and defensive tackle, and Sean Hamlet played wide receiver, quarterback, and safety. Walter Ford, another guy I forgot to mention, he was my teammate at Hampton High and Virginia Tech. We rushed for 1,000 yards in 7 games. Okay, so I mean, we
Okay.
played. I'm telling you, we were called the Hampton High Crabbers, and the thing about it is that if you look at like winning programs in the nation, like we're top 5, top 10 nationwide. So this is all time. So I mean, I was very blessed to play for a great high school coach and a legendary college coach in Frank Beamer. So when I look at my college career, like to be able to play for legendary coaches on all levels is amazing. I mean, so Coach Mike Smith, I mean, he coached, like I said, me, Tyrod Taylor, Ahmad Hawkins, Ronald Curry, um, James Wilson, Myron Newsom. I mean, so many great players, man. I mean, I'm not going to try to name everybody because it's too many.
Too
And
many.
and
There you go.
and you got to think about this. He won 12 state championships, and he's been to like 19. I mean, I
Dang.
believe that's a rough estimate, but you're talking about like we overuse the word GOAT now, like on First Take and all these shows and on Twitter and IG.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's goated. Like I see people saying 11-year-olds and 9-year-olds. Oh yeah, he's GOAT. He's on demon time because he scored 20 points in the AAU game, but he's 11. I played for GOATs. I played against GOATs. You know what I'm saying? So you're talking about, like I said, I mean, I'm related to one of the GOATs. So like at the end of the day, like I can speak on GOAT. I got GOAT credibility. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
So I mean,
So
but like yeah, it's just crazy how people misuse that term. But for me, I can use it because I've seen so many great athletes, male and female. I mean, I didn't even get into the female athletes that were from the 757, uh Keisha Frett, who was a parade All-American, and then also Taj Abraham. I mean, her jersey's retired at the Boo Williams Complex. I mean, she went to the WNBA. So, I mean, that the Peninsula District and the Tidewater region. I know we're not Florida and California and Georgia as far as metropolitan areas, but as far as, you know, pound for pound, mile for mile, we right there with some of the best ones that ever did it.
Man, that's what's
But
up.
yeah, Coach Smith was just Coach Smith, and shout out to him again. He just retired. I love him, man. I was honored to play for him and to be part of a great legacy that features some of the best players, not only in Virginia high school football, but many of them college. I mean, you think about the quarterbacks that played for him: David Wofford, Eric Hunter, who was a parade All-American, Big Ten Rookie of the Year at Purdue. Um, as I mentioned, Tyrod Taylor. Of course, you already mentioned Ronald Curry. I mean, Ronald Curry was a National Gatorade Player of the Year in both football and basketball. I mean,
yep.
it's crazy, man.
Yep. Was a great
It's
NFL
crazy,
receiver for the Raiders.
you know.
But yeah, talk about the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and Ronald Curry, and he's still doing. He's now the quarterback coach and coaching with the Saints. I mean,
That's
and
right.
people talk about, like, people criticize and can say what they want, but Ronald Curry did what was best for them. I wanted him to go to UVA to face off against my cousin Mike, because that would have been an epic rivalry. You think about them going against each other in high school and then being state rivals at Tech and UVA. But at the time, can you really look at him funny for going to UNC when UNC
No.
had Mac Brown and Dean Smith at the time? And UNC,
Yep.
I mean, that's UNC. And he still had a great college and pro career. How many guys we know that their career ended at JV? So you can nitpick and analyze people's decisions, but you got to respect what he did and how he really, continues to do
Oh yeah.
great things. He has basketball tournaments and all of that stuff.
Yeah, man. Hey, yeah, incredible athlete, man. I played against him when I was at Clemson and he was at Carolina. Man,
Yeah.
He was hard, man.
Yeah.
Man, for real.
Very, very elusive guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So talk about the playoffs. Who was y'all rival back then when you played in high school? Who was y'all rival?
Our rival?
Mm-hmm.
In high school, our rivals was everybody. Everybody hated Hampton High. Everybody hated the Crabbers. And in football, I'll start with football and I get to basketball. In football, our main rival was Bethel, because they had Allen Iverson, right? Chuck, we call him Bubba Chuck, aka
Bubba
Chuck. But Phoebus was our rival. Phoebus was our rival because they were just very similar to how we were as far as their demographic and how they look. So Phoebus was our rival in football, but we typically beat them. Like I was 3-1 against them. If you count my freshman year, I was a backup. They beat us in 1990. After that, we beat them every year after that. But our number one rival back then was Bethel. And then Kickintan too. Kickintan always had some great players. I mentioned Morocco Brown, Macy Brooks, Tony Jordan, who went to JMU. He's a coach now, great guy. But the Friday nights in Darling Stadium was nostalgic. The Friday nights in the Peninsula District was nostalgic because when Hampton Bethel got together in the Darling Stadium, you're talking about many times 9,000 to 11,000 people. The highlight of that, the pinnacle of that rivalry was my 10th and 11th grade year. In 10th grade, we played them. We were 9-0, number one in the state. They were 9-0. They were ranked in the state as well. We played for the Peninsula District Championship, and they were trying to take our title. We had won several in a row, and we lost that game 9-3. And unfortunately, we had some
I stand by this. I don't care if Chuck was on this podcast. I tell him to his face too. We had 3 star players that were suspended from the team that didn't play late in the season, and we beat them the year before, 54-0. So Chuck told us after the game, his freshman year, y'all will never beat this again. But at the same time, he was saying that because he always exuded confidence. But at the end of the day, we were more confident. But they got us that day. The 11th grade year, the year after we played them, they were 7-2. We were 9-0. They had to beat us to get into the playoffs. So they beat us 30-10. I mean, Chuck, he did everything. I mean, he did everything but water the grass. Like he returned kickoffs,
interceptions at
interceptions.
safety.
I mean, he just took over the game. There was nothing we could do. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, we prepared for him. We knew what we were going to do, but like he inspired his team to win. They had to win to get in the game. We were 9-0. We were number 1 in the state and number 8 in the nation by USA Today. So we were the number 1 seed. We were number 1 in the state, and Chuck just took over. I mean, you're talking about everything. He had a scramble one time that he ran. He ran, and I remember one time during the timeout, he walked over to Coach Smith, the legendary Hall of Fame coach, and he was like, "Yo, hurry up, coach. I'm tired, man. Call that 60 trap." Like, he calling out our plays, and Coach Smith was like, "Don't talk to me. Don't you talk to me." Yeah, he was very good at playing mind games, man. Now, the one player he didn't want no parts of was my teammate and longtime friend, Myron Newsom. Myron Newsom was one I told you was one of the best linebackers ever played, but Chuck knew where to go. He knew when to get down. The one thing I'd say about him is Iverson made Bethel's uniforms look real sweet. This is back in the day, we call it spat back then. He would tape up his
the white
cleats.
Yeah,
he had them green tights, and he was real thin. And he walked around like he owned the entire stadium. And he walked around, and Hampton High was the standard, and he had no fear. And I mean, he played with some great players. Don't get it twisted. He played with a guy named Jonathan Dean. He played with a guy named Chris Gaskell. DeVan Hill, Alfred Terrell. The misconception and was that it was all him, but he had some great teammates and some great players around him. I mean, Kelly Rogers. I mean, they had a lot of talent on that team, but Barry Dean, but Barry Hargrave. But he elevated them when they played us. They played inspired football. And basketball was the same thing. Bethel was
state champion. Yep.
Rob Ferguson, because guys I mentioned, but Bethel and Hampton during that time was the rivalry game. Again, like football. I told you we played Bethel, 11,000, 10,000 people sitting on top of houses. In basketball, they moved the games to Hampton University and to the Hampton Coliseum. That had never been done then, and it hasn't been done since. So you're talking about high school games that were featuring
college level.
There were people coming from all over across the state. Yeah, everybody was coming, and it was must see. But here's the thing: we had a squad. We had Damon Bako. Shout out to he's one of my goats. He went to Richmond and transferred to Alabama, played with Antonio McDyess. Damon Bako was that dude. So think about this. I'm gonna hit you guys with a nugget. Think about this. During that time, the top 3 scorers in the district that was loaded with talent in basketball was Damon Bako, Allen Iverson, and Tony Rutland, all averaging over 30 points a game. 1, 2, and 3. And Allen Iverson and Tony Rutland were in the same backcourt. And they both averaged that. And Tony Rutland was so good, he sacrificed his game to play for Bethel and his team. And that showed you how good they were. We beat them twice. To start this season, 83-80 in the Christmas tournament. And then we beat them again at Hampton University, 101 to like 50. Chuck got mad, went in the locker room, got mad and left. You took it, you know what I'm saying? So we feeling real good. Then later in the year, we playing Ward. Damon Bako goes up for a dunk. I'm not going to name the kid because he's a friend of mine. All I say his name is Tyrone. And he went underneath Damon. Damon came down and fell on his wrist, and he fractured and chipped some bones in his wrist. He still played with the soft cast, but we played them again in the district tournament game and the championship, district tournament championship, and he wasn't and he wasn't the same. He
100%.
wasn't the same player, and it hurt our chance to win state championship. Subsequently, guess who won states? Bethel, aka Chuck and them. So that, and I'm gonna tell you something. I'm older now, so I can respect it. Back then, I was petty. I was bitter, right? Because you won a state championship. I mean, I got bowl rings. I've been to 5 bowl games, Sugar Bowl, beat Clemson, beat Miami, played against Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, and to this day, I want a state championship. So, Chuck, Rutland, if you guys watching, give me my state championship. But look, the one thing I respect about Chuck, aka Allen Iverson, is that when he won the football championship. He beat EC Glass, led by All-American Cornell Brown, who went to Virginia Tech, also went to the Baltimore Ravens, won a Super Bowl with them. He beat them, and then being interviewed by Bob Hintz, the Hampton City Schools news channel. What do you got next, Ivins? He said, with a green Scully on, he said, I'm going to win one in basketball. And did it. And this is during the time when Virginia high school basketball was AAA, AA, single A. So now you got Division 5, Division 6, Class 4, Class 3. More people can get into the playoffs. It was much harder in the 80s and 90s than it is now. I mean, it ain't easy winning a state championship, but it was much harder back then. It
was. Yep. All right.
Yeah.
So talk about any All-Star games.
Yeah. All-Star games? They don't have it anymore now, but I played in the VHL All-Star Game, and that was for the 80s and 90s. That was the All-Star Game. This is before, again, social media, before everybody named Steve created a manufactured All-Star. Now anybody can be an All-Star, right? We can get together, create a board, get a 501c, and get the Chicken McNugget All-Stars, right? You know what I'm saying? This is back when you can only have 2 or 3 kids from your school. So I was an all-star with some great players. I was an all-star with a guy named Anthony Poindexter. We all know him, right? One of the GOATs. We back at that again. The GOAT went to UVA from Jefferson Forest out in Lynchburg. Also on that team was Ken Oxendine, Marcus Parker, a guy by the name of Tony Morrison, who was a dual-threat athlete at Indian River, played quarterback and safety. Played with Sean Foreman, who went to West Virginia. Tony Morrison went to Virginia Tech with me. Indian River also produced Alonzo Mourning. Also on that all-star team, a guy by the name of Angelo Harrison and Aaron Brooks, who was my quarterback. It was finally great to play with a guy like that. Aaron Brooks, 6'5" quarterback, running like a deer, had a rocket for an arm. So the All-Star Game was crazy, man, because, this is before the internet, before Twitter and everything like that, and Instagram and Facebook. So you get to meet people from other parts of Virginia that you may not have met. And, Poindexter, in that game, he hit somebody on the sideline, and I played against and played with some of the best safeties of all time, right, in college and high school, in my humble opinion. Torian Gray, William Yarborough, who's from Newport News, played at Warwick. I played against Ed Reed. I told you guys about Sean Hamlin, who had 16 interceptions in 1 year, went to Florida State, and also add Anthony Poindexter to that list, because Poindexter, I played against him at UVA and in the All-Star Game. And I'll say this, man, if he doesn't hurt his knee his senior year, we both went to the Baltimore Ravens minicamp together, and Anthony Poindexter was just special. And I don't care what team you play for. I don't want to see anybody get injured, but Dex was special, man. Like, I mean, that's our rival, but, when he was playing, I made sure to watch UVA play because his gear, his mindset, the way he carried himself, his walk, and he country, he's from Lynchburg. He's a country boy, man, but don't let it be twisted. He was a goon on that field. Believe that.
Yep. So he was Playboy, All-American, Rondé and Tiki, and then the linebacker the linebacker from the Tar Heels, I think Simmons, if that's his last name.
Simmons,
all those guys were in the same Playboy American, because I used to subscribe to it coming up in high school.
Yeah, you subscribed to the Playboy American for the All-American, or you subscribed to Playboy for what?
Like you know how you have the Sports Illustrated and it comes out with the Playboy All-American in it? Yeah, that part.
Yeah. It's funny what we had to It's funny what we had to do back then to keep up with what's going on. Blue Chip magazine, run to the mall and get that Street and Smith magazine. Now you can just, grab your phone and you're working or something, man.
Everything.
So, it's just crazy. Yeah.
Yep. Go
Yeah.
ahead, KJ.
Hey, so coming out, yeah. So
Yeah.
coming out of high
Go ahead.
school, coming out of high school, what schools you turned down, and why you
So
chose Virginia Tech?
I was by the time my senior year in high school, I was rated fourth in the nation by Sport News magazine. I was rated fourth in the nation. The number one player in my position was Orlando Pace. So they got that right. I was four. Orlando Pace was one. Um, I went to Virginia Tech, as you guys already know, but they weren't my first choice. I was heavily recruited by Florida, the Florida Gators. Steve Spurrier's son was an assistant coach. He called me from the Sugar Bowl. My dad was really digging Florida. My favorite schools at the time, again, I'm being honest, this is a podcast, was UVA and Notre Dame. Those were my two favorite schools. I loved the Fighting Irish back in the day. You got to understand something. In the late 80s and early 90s, Jerome Bettis, Becton, Betts, Tony Rice, the Rocket. Come on, man. They got cheated by Colorado in the national championship when they called the clip and the Rocket scored. This is a guy legendary. The Rocket was legendary. Apparently, he ran a 4-1 one time in church shoes. Yep. Okay. So I got letters. I got letters from Notre Dame. I was getting mail every day. Clemson was on me hard, Georgia Tech, JMU, Howard, Hampton, Boston College, Miami. I got letters because, I'm 6'4.5", 310 pounds in high school running a 4.9. So, I was sought after, and I had the grades, I had the discipline and the mindset. But at the same time, the schools I was looking at, every time I was going to visit, East Carolina was a school I liked a lot. Something happened with a coaching staff. They got let go. My recruiter got reassigned. So it was almost like, well, all of a sudden, here comes Virginia Tech. And I started watching Virginia Tech, and I was like, they got Lawrence Lewis. They got a guy from down my way, a great two-sport athlete, football and basketball from Kickinton High School. They got Antonio Banks, who was an animal, a vicious DB. I played against him. Yep. So I'm seeing guys from around the way at Tech. Then they beat UVA 17-10. And I'm like, UVA at the time was the premier school in the state. So I was like, let me see what Tech talking about. And my recruiter was Coach Billy Height. He only recruited the Tidewater area that 1 year. He's from DeMatha, so he normally had DC and Maryland, but he recruited me, and I go to Tech on a visit, and I promise you, man, like they wanted my top 5, and I left. They were number 1, and it was just something about the school. It was something about Beamer. I remember coming home from basketball practice. Beamer and Coach Height were in my living room, and I came home, and they were in my living room. My sister answered the door. And she was like, yo, I'm being honest, this is Hampton. They like, it's 2 white men in our living room. And I was like, oh, I'm thinking, yo, what I do? Like, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Because where I'm from, where I live, it won't like they was just walking around like that. So, no. So I go in there, and it's Coach Height and Coach Beamer. And Coach Beamer, he's sitting down there talking to my mom, and Coach Beamer is sitting there, and he says, we want to make you a Hokie. And he talked about his vision of winning the state. And he was talking about all the players that were coming from Virginia. A lot of those guys I mentioned I played with at the AllStar Game. And when he's sitting in my living room, I'm looking at him, and I'm like, it's something about this guy. I feel like I can trust him. And my mom and dad, they were asking him a ton of questions. And when I went on my visit, afterwards, everything made sense. And they had a lot of local in-state players. I didn't care about it being in the mountains. I didn't care about it being near agriculture and farms. I liked the fact it was 5 hours away from Hampton. Being somebody that grew up in Hampton and Newport News, it was important. For me, I grew up around HBCUs, Norfolk State, and Hampton University. For me, I wanted to kind of go against the grain. And here's the thing. When I signed with Virginia Tech, I was the first guy from my high school in '94 to sign with them. The last guy from my high school was Leslie Bailey, a great linebacker that signed there in '85. There was a drought because some things happened between some players that didn't get in. So there were a lot of people that didn't go to Tech. They were going to UVA, UNC, and Notre Dame. Robert Banks went to Notre Dame, a great player. So when I went to Tech, I broke the streak of players not going. And guess who went after me? You talk about Myron Newsom, Walter Ford, Shelly Ellison. His son is playing at Wake Forest, Justice Ellison. Myron Newsom, as I mentioned, Tyrone Tynes. Then Michael Vick comes. So if you see Coach Frank Beamer, tell him I'm still owe some money. I get Mike. You know what I'm saying? Marcus.
Both of them, yeah.
I get Mike and Marcus to come. So, Tech was my choice. I mean, I was a huge Irish fan. UVA, I used to watch them because they had Sean Moore to Herman Moore. They had Chris Slade. They were just loaded, but it felt good to go to Tech and do something different and not open the doors for a lot of people from the 757 from the Tidewater area that followed me after I graduated high school.
Yeah. Hey, when you stepped on campus, what teammate did you had a bond with?
Oh man, that's a great question, man. When I got to college, it was an instant connection with a few people. Ken Ox and Don Derek Smith. Derek Smith and I were completely different, but we were similar. So he's 6'6", almost 6'7". He was born in Portsmouth in Tidewater, but he grew up in West Virginia. Tall white guy. At the time, was completely different from me. His mom and dad divorced, and he was from West Virginia, and I'm from Hampton. But we were both linemen. Todd Washington is also a two-time Super Bowl champion as a coach and as a player with the Baltimore Ravens, and he played with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I knew him as a child, so all three of us were linemen, and we connected right away. Then, of course, it's just our incoming class was tight. Marcus Parker, I guess we were just all real tight. Al Clark from DC. So our at that time, our freshman class, where Virginia Tech was highly touted. So I connected with those guys, and we bonded. And back then you better have some friends because practices was, you were full pads all the time, weren't that many water breaks. But I love those guys. Everybody I named, I forgot some. We're still all tight now. Like many of them have been on my podcast, and it's a brotherhood. I'm not in a fraternity. My father is, but it's the closest thing to that for me because we were so close, and we graduated together, and we made memories together. We made history at Tech. The bowl streak and all the great things we did. So, I mean, Todd Washington was my roommate my freshman year when I lived on campus. And then after that, I roomed with Derek Smith, a few times. And like I said, Tony Morrison, I mentioned earlier from Indian River, great athlete, a wild child, one of the wildest guys I've ever seen, crazy, funny. But at the same time, man, I love him to this day, man. You guys know if you ever played sports or if you even been around as a coach, there's a bond that you can't really manufacture. You can't really make it anything else but what it is. And to this day, I mean, I'm in my 40s now, but I still remember moments on the flights, on the airplane, flying back from the Orange Bowl, or trips to Clemson, or Boston College, or UVA. You win together, you lose together. Winter workouts, getting up at 5 a.m. just to throw up and sweat till you about to pass out. So that's what makes you tight, right? That's what makes you close.
That's right.
There you go, blood, sweat, and tears. So we're gonna go ahead and roll into this footage,
That's
man.
right.
We got
Blood,
with Frank
sweat,
Beamer. He's talking about over the time how the program grew into what it is now, and how proud he is to be not only associated with some great kids that play football, but also he said that you guys were great men. We're gonna go ahead and get into that and pay tribute to him, because he pretty much built the program up. So everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification button on YouTube, and also follow us on Facebook, Spotify, and Deezer. Tonight we have special guests for the people that's watching. It's former VTech lineman Dwight Vick. All right. We're going to go ahead and get into it, and we'll cover some more VTech stories, and I'll talk about life after football.
All right, Coach, when I mentioned to you your 1999 team, what are the things that come to mind?
I think most people wouldn't know, but the tremendous amount of talent we had on that team. You're talking about the Michael Vicks and the Corey Moore and Anthony Midgets and Ike Charlton and Ben Taylor. I mean, it just kind of goes on, and you say, what a great player. But the other part of it, you say, what a great person.
College Game Day, live from Blacksburg, next.
I think that team changed certainly who we were around here at Virginia Tech. I know growing up, and I grew up an hour from here, and I never envisioned that Virginia Tech one day would play for the national championship.
They may have broken our college game day attendance record. Frank Beamer has one caution. Pace yourselves. Save it for tonight at 6 o'clock to kick off.
Your starting quarterback that season was pretty good, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'd say Michael Vick was very good.
There's no doubt. Michael Vick of Tech is a special freshman.
I've never been around a person that could do what he did, how well he could throw the ball, the short pass, the deep pass, the touch he had, the delay, the screens. You know, he had every throw.
Kirk and I both saw Michael Vick against Clemson, and we said to each other, wow, what a great-looking athlete this kid is. This guy makes the plays.
Well, he's a special player. Sprinting right, crosses the 50, right sideline 40. He will score. Touchdown, Tech. 53-yard run for the magician, Michael Vick.
He didn't know where he was going to go. You didn't know where he was going to go. The other team didn't know where he was going to go, but he was going to go somewhere pretty fast.
He's racing into the end zone. Touchdown, Tech. It's a marvelous 75-yard run for Michael Vick.
It was pretty obvious pretty quickly that this guy had a very unique set of abilities that most people just don't have.
It is a tough place for visitors to get to. It is a very tough place for visitors to win.
Touchdown, Tech. Holy smokes. He went airborne. He went way up in the air. Andre Davis hauls it in. A 61-yard touchdown. Michael Vick to Andre Davis. Coming to get him. Corey Moore's got him. Oh, and Corey Moore throws him down. Utterly thrown down hard, Mike. Ricky Hall will score. Oh, no. Firing it deep in the end zone for Hall. He's got it.
Comes the headgear. And the Hokies jacket. Secret Hokies jacket is behind it all. This is going to be a very tough atmosphere. We'll see it back here on ESPN at 6 o'clock Eastern time.
Michael Vick is on fire, ladies and gentlemen. Another touchdown for the Hokies freshman. Driving in a fumble. Ball pop free. Picked up by Bird. Down the sideline. Into the end zone. Touchdown, Tech.
Best in the nation. Corey Moore, he just said best in the nation. I don't know if he's talking about his team or him because he is the best defensive lineman in college football. Welcome to the town, baby. He's wrong. Welcome to the town, he's wrong. He's wrong.
It's just very obvious that we have a great fan base here, that statement, we're all in this together. And I think it's still true to this day that we're all working hard to make Virginia Tech football better each and every year.
All right, we back. It was a great bit with Frank Beamer, is the architect for Virginia football. I guess he's the most influential coach there. I got two questions. Did you know Frank Beamer was going to be the type of coach he turned out to be? And when did you know that Michael Vick was going to be the athlete that he turned out to be?
So I'm gonna say Mike. I'm gonna say my thoughts about Mike for after I answer about Coach Beamer. So Coach
Yeah, there you
Beamer,
go.
Coach Beam, Coach Beamer just knew how to get the right staff together, and he understood the importance of humility and how to keep the right staff together. He's talking about his coaching staff to this day during the 20 years plus he was there was remarkable. He knew to hire Bud Foster, and when we lost the defensive coordinator before him, Al Mason, who was a great coach, he brought in Bud. He elevated Bud Foster from linebackers coach to defensive coordinator, and then he had Coach Steinspring, Coach Grimes, Coach Ricky Bussell, Coach Height, Coach Kavanaugh. So he understood. Coach Beamer just knew how to treat people. He knew how to recruit people. I mean, he's talking about getting guys from Dade County in Miami, from Eastern Newport News, from Hampton, Virginia, Youngs Park in Norfolk, Columbia, South Carolina, Easley, South Carolina. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about getting guys from Brooklyn and Antonio Freeman from Baltimore City to come to Blacksburg. You are one heck of a recruiter. And on top of it, all those guys in places that I mentioned, they love tech. So at the end of the day, they bought in, and Beamer just, I believed in him because being part of those teams with J.C. Price and Hank Coleman and all those different people, I can't name them all. George Del Rico, we just knew that we were part of something bigger than us. So we were on a track to really make history. I mean, and we made history. And then you look at, what happened after. You guys asked about my cousin Mike. Listen, I'm usually, everyone that knows me, that's close to me, knows I love a good I told you so. I definitely told people about Mike because Mike was so talented. But think about this: in the district that I was part of, my 4 years in high school, you had Aaron Brooks and Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson and Aaron Brooks, right? And before him, you had Eric Hunter and guys like that. Here comes two young guys right after I graduated named Ronald Curry and Michael Vick. Michael Vick was rated 5th in the nation, but nobody really knew about him other than the people in that area because Ronald Curry won 3 state championships, 1 national championship in football, and he also won a state championship in basketball and was the National Gatorade Player of the Year in both football and basketball. National. So everybody wanted him. Mike was heavily recruited, but guess who knew about Mike? Coach Beamer. And Beamer only recruited 1 quarterback that year, Uki, a.k.a. Mike. And guess who was his host and primary recruiter? Yours truly. So I knew about Mike, and there's an article in the Collegiate Times where I said in 1998, as I'm getting ready to graduate, I told the paper and anybody that would listen, Mike was going to come to Tech because he was there as I was a red shirt senior. He was a red shirt, and he's going to change the game. I prophesized he was going to be a Heisman candidate. I said he was going to take Tech to the national championship and change the position. And my recruiting pitch to him when I recruited him, Donovan McNabb does not know me, so he didn't realize that he was not going to beat me in getting Mike to Tech. I told Mike, I said, if you come to Tech, you can play against Ronald Curry because I thought he was going to go to UVA, and you can get him back for those years he beat you in high school. But the serious pitch was you can come and thrive in this offense. You can be around a bunch of great players, and you can stay home, and your mom and everybody in Casey and everybody can see you play. And I knew Mike was special. I mean, talking about a guy that could throw it. And that does not minimize what Ronald Curry did. Ronald Curry in 1 year in high school had 79 touchdowns. He was responsible. Let me say it again. Let me say it again for this podcast.
Passing touchdown?
No, combined. Throwing, running, kicking.
And one season?
All of that. And he was responsible for 79 touchdowns in 1 season. And the state semis,
10 or 12 games?
14 games. 14 games. I'm not saying he threw for 79. I'm talking about
all together.
Six. This is why he was a national player. This is why Bobby Bowden said he was the best high school football player he had ever seen. So, with that being said, you got him at Hampton High, which is the premier program in the state at that time, and for many years, and Dan Streets Ward, and Mike is just doing his thing. But he was not elevated like he was like Ronald, and that's nobody's fault. This is how sports is. So you get the Tech. Here's the other thing. He got the red shirt. Mike got the red shirt his freshman year and sit out and learn and pay attention and take in college life and adjust. Ronald was going to red shirt, but Oscar Davenport got injured and he got thrust into playing prematurely. And it's tough. Quarterbacks need to learn and sit. So Mike, next thing you know, I graduate and he's around veteran players. Corey Moore, you just showed the montage, the video that year, that 99 season. Anthony Midget, Sharon Stith, all those guys, Ben Taylor, they were all veterans and they had been playing. And Mike just came in the first couple of years, first couple of games, he was learning his way. And then after that Clemson game, it took off. I mean, he just took off. And the great thing about it, he played with a great receiver like Andre Davis and Ricky Hall. You know, he just had to play his game. And Shane Graham, a great, kicker, one of the best kickers in Virginia Tech history. Every position on that team, they were set and they were straight. So when people ask me, was I surprised Mike did as well as he did? I always say absolutely not, because I saw it coming. You saw that hurricane coming. You know how you watch the weather and there's a cold front coming. I saw that cold front coming. And I told all my teammates in the locker room, I told my Florida boys, I said, we got something special. Because, again, I was very happy. I love Ronald Curry. I still love him. I still brag about Ronald. He, to me, is the best high school football player I've ever seen. And I've seen some great ones. But Mike was in the perfect situation, and it was the perfect storm. And his arm, his left arm, his speed, he just was so dynamic. And we will never see a player like him. And think about his impact. Think about Mike's impact. Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton. I mean, come on, man. We keep going on. Tyrod Taylor. I mean, we know about Randall Cunningham and all them, but they still mention Mike, right? They still mention Mike. We're not gonna see that no more. We're not gonna see that no more.
That's right, man. Hey, talk about the bowl experiences, man.
There you go.
Hey, man, when you from Hampton, Virginia, and Newport News, Virginia, and you really never grew up having these family vacations, we ain't had no time sharing the 7-5. I didn't. My wife did. She grew up going to Wally World, Chevy Chase, and doing these elaborate vacations. Myrtle Beach.
Lampoon.
we won't doing all that. So when you go to bowl games, going to the Orange Bowl, the legendary, the one they tore down, and playing against Nebraska, the two-time defending national champions, going to the Gator Bowl, where my mom is from in Jacksonville. I've been to 2 Gator Bowls, played against Peyton Manning when he was a freshman. Going to the Music City Bowl, the first year it was ever done. My last game ever as a Hokie, beating Alabama 38-7, their worst bowl game loss in Alabama history. And they had Fernandez at quarterback, Sean Alexander, the left tackle, Chris Samuels, and we beat the brakes off them. They were yelling, Roll Tide, SEC, SEC. After the game, all them Tech fans were yelling, Roll Tech. They were salty. And we gave, now again, in respect, they are not the Bama we know today. They're not Nick Saban, but they were still very confident. The Sugar Bowl, I didn't even play in because I was a redshirt freshman. But that was probably the best bowl, because that bowl game, we beat Texas, who was Texas. That's when they were Texas. They had Ricky Williams. They had James Brown at quarterback, and we beat them 28-10 on New Year's Eve. And Brian Steele ran a punt back. He also caught a bomb from Jen Junkermiller, who ended up being a first-round draft pick with the 49ers. Our defense showed out. Jim Brand, Torian Gray, Cornell. It was special, and that's the game. You talk about Michael Vick, you talk about some of the great players. Beamer and most people I've had on my Victory Life Legacy spotlight will tell you that the 95 team and that 95 season is what did it, because we started off 0-2, but we beat the Miami Hurricanes for the first time, and the rest was history. And you cap it all off with beating Texas in the Sugar Bowl when they are the school, 28-10, and put everybody on notice. And we won the conference that year, and we came back, we won the conference again. And this is when, Miami had Ray Lewis, who was on my podcast with Mike and I. He remembers all of that. This is how special it was. So, the bowl game is something I still take pride in, because that was my time to travel and see stuff outside of Virginia. It was also special to be places that you may not have gone to if you didn't go to college. You got a ton of gear. Now I'm not a hater, but these youngins now, I think one bowl game, everybody got a PS5. Fiesta Bowl was sponsored by PlayStation, I think. Everybody got a PS5. You know, now we got money like $500, $700, $800. These kids are getting thousands of dollars, and now they got the NIL money where they can make money off their likeness. You know, I tell people all the time, with my personality and my energy, if we had the NIL, all the stuff I do now, I would have had TikTok, I would have had a YouTube. Yeah, it would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, for real,
no doubt.
man. It's spoiled now.
So talk about life after Virginia Tech. What was your next move after your last season?
Right.
You know, after I graduated from Virginia Tech, I was on pace to get drafted. I was supposed to get drafted by the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots called Mike Goforth for my medical records, which is the indication that you're on their draft board. They took Damian Woody out of Boston College. Damian Woody is a great player. You see him now on ESPN. He's from Virginia, from Richmond area, Patrick Henry Ashland. And I wasn't mad about that because Damian Woody, he played the same position. He played at Boston College. So as far as proximity, New England saw him all the time. I signed with the Ravens in their mini camp. And that was the first year Brian Billick came from Minnesota as an offensive coordinator. So he brought a lot of linemen from Minnesota there. He brought Jonathan Ogden and a lot of those guys. So there was no way I was going to make that team. Anthony Poindexter was in camp with me. So I got cut after mini camp. And then I remember sitting in the airport. I was in the airport for like 7 hours because there was a flight delay, a storm. And, you know, football is a very abrupt ending. I mean, basketball, you can play in the G League, you can play overseas, you can play in Europe and all that good stuff. Football, when it's over, it ends right away. You can still try out, but it's almost like, how long are you going to keep trying out, living off of credit cards and staying in friends' basements? And mind you, I graduated Virginia Tech with 2 degrees. And then years later, I got 2 more degrees, 2 masters. So I have 4 degrees, but your first goal is to play ball. But I will say this, I said this last night on another podcast. Everything I'm doing now, I said I was going to do in 1997. My practice, licensed therapist, my own office, 2 businesses, I prophesize it. So my mom and dad told me straight up that you have a chance to be great, but you can be even a better person, a better professional. And my wife, then she was my girlfriend, Shanice, she told me the night before the draft that even if I got drafted, she felt God had a bigger plan for me. And I embraced that. At first, I was resentful, but you got to have people in your corner that's honest with you.
Yeah,
so after I got cut, I tried out. I did arena football. I did some semi-pro, but it just never was the same. But it was cool to stay active. And then I was like, you know what? I sat down. I was like, let me just get to work, man. And I was home in Hampton, Virginia. It was a Friday night. I packed up my dad's 1989 Buick. I put the rest in storage. I don't even know how that Buick I don't know how that Buick even made it to Northern Virginia where I live now, bro. And I got in a Buick. But here's the thing I tell people all the time. I stepped out on faith, man. Everything I've done in my life, I stepped out on faith. I moved up here to the D.C. area, Northern Virginia. I stepped out on faith because I believed in myself. All the adversity I faced in life, all the difficult decisions I had to make, everything was guided by God's order. So I never felt abandoned or alone. There was times I was concerned and scared, but the pain and disappointment I had from getting cut, there was some depression. But after that, I realized I had so much more to offer than being an ex-Black athlete. So I began to focus on my brand. I began to focus on my moves professionally. I started networking. I moved up here. I stayed with 2 of my closest friends, Cedric and Missy Jackson. There was my wife's best friend. I lived in one of their spare rooms. The next day I woke up, I got a job in Tyson's working in a temp agency where my wife worked at. And we got engaged that year. So things started to happen where I realized, stop focusing so much on what's wrong in your life and stop focusing so much on what you don't have and where you should be, and start focusing on where you want to go. I took all that energy and disappointment and I made it my vision to be successful. I made it a point not to feel sorry for myself because perspective is so insightful, because my perspective was where I wasn't at until I ran into somebody one day at the barbershop, and he said, man, I only played JV. If I could have just ran out the tunnel one time like you guys did, that would fulfill my life, my career. And I was like, wow, this dude is telling me how he wish he had a little bit of what I experienced. So I realized that I had to stop feeling bad for myself, and I started making moves. And it was good. I later, as I mentioned, I went to grad school. I got 2 masters. Then later, when I started, becoming business savvy, I got licensed as a licensed professional counselor. So it's crazy. You probably will never see a therapist this big.
It's all good, man.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, who do most people want? They want a black male therapist. How many of them do you see? Not many.
Not many.
And I can also relate to people that are suburban and also people who are growing up in the hood. Just depends. And I'm empathetic enough to understand that everybody needs help. We're all a work in progress. So all these gifts, all this stuff I experienced throughout my childhood and my life. Like when I was in elementary school, from elementary school to my senior in high school, I only missed one day of school my senior year. So all the professors I talked to in college, all the relationships, all the people that prayed for me, they were right there. So all those life lessons, those I learned from disappointment, really helped me become the person I was. So I was prepared for those moments when things didn't happen because I had a plan and I didn't feel sorry for myself.
There you go, man. I'm glad everything worked out and you stuck to your plan. It's like people say, only God give you the vision. Hey, you just got to do your best to live it out and get it out. So you can let your light shine. As a matter of fact, talking about light shine, I have a clip right here that's exemplifying you showing your light and you sharing it with the youth.
You got a clip of me?
Go ahead and get into that.
Let me get my phone to my Vick. Go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right. I'm about to go ahead and play that. For everybody that's watching, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification button. We have special guest, former VTech lineman, Dwight Vick. All right. Let's go ahead and get into this video.
We are live on the football field, and you're watching Twin Sports TV. And it's a live, uncut, unscripted segment where the cameras roll and anything goes. We down here for the Mike Vick weekend. Oh, yeah. We getting it in with a whole lot of football. We snagged somebody special. We got him. And we're going to talk to him for a second. What's your name?
My name is Dwight Vick.
Hey, all right. Dwight Vick. So you out here at the Mike Vick camp. So what's your role in all this?
I'm the camp coordinator. I put it together along with Carmina and Jennifer, Team Vick Foundation. We put it together a weekend to celebrate not just Team Vick, but empowering the youth in our community.
Hey, turn out for that. That's what it's all about. So what's your background in sports?
I was an all-state lineman at Hampton High School, and I had about 30 scholarship offers. I chose Virginia Tech. I'd like to tell people I was the first Vick at Virginia Tech. Then I recruited Mike and Marcus there, but then I started my own business along with my team called College Prep World, where we do high school internship programs, college tours, mentoring, life skills seminars for parents, also career development, and I also work as a therapist and a columnist for VTScoop.com.
Hey, he getting it in. Now, let me ask you something, because all these athletes are out here, and you do a lot of college prep work. So how important is the education for these young athletes to get into these D1 schools?
You know what, I'm glad you said that, because tomorrow is probably going to be the biggest part of our weekend for Mike, the academic symposium, where tomorrow we're going to talk about the appropriate use of social media, how to really teach them to interact with coaches and authority figures, the importance of decision making, also really making sure they have a transitional plan for life after football. And I'm not talking about working at Foot Locker. I'm talking about we need more guys to be general managers, more coaches, more journalists, and more leaders, and not just being complacent with getting a pair of J's.
Hey,
that's what's up. Now, let me ask you something. How important do you think youth sports are to communities?
I think it gets you off the street. I mean, I'm from Newport News. Also, I claim Hampton. I love both areas. That's where I'm from. But we all know that this is a great area. But if you get caught up, you get caught up and you get in trouble. So it's important that guys really don't lose sight of that. So with youth sports, whether it's track and field, baseball, softball, football, you have an opportunity to have structure. You have somewhere to go after school and somewhere to go on the weekend versus just kicking it in the streets.
Absolutely. Well said. well said. All right. Hey, all right. We just want to let you know, because, we from Bad News, too. Newport News.
Turn up for that.
Love it all. This is our area. We back here with Vick. He giving back. We giving back. Everybody giving back. We just want to let you know, you watching Twin Sports TV. Get your game up. Get your game up. Woo! Woo!
Tour Sports TV, get your game up.
Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. We back.
Hey, man, where y'all dug that one up? That was from way back when I was the camp coordinator for Mike Vick's camp, man. Y'all, I forgot about them crazy twins, man. But they I think they still do. I think they do stuff in Atlanta and all over, man. But they threw me off. They pulled me to the side. But y'all dug that one up, man. But I still stand by that. I don't have that business anymore. That was my business I had before Victory Life and College Prep World, man. We did talent shows. We raised money for community service. I had over 10 interns, male and females. All of them went on to college, and some went into government, political science. So I'm so proud of that journey I had with College Prep World, man. We did football camps and academic symposiums. I really helped a lot of people when I did that business, not just in college, but just life skills and just being successful. So that was a really great time in my life, man. And I had so much going on back then, but I still great memories, man. Great memories.
Good, right. So let's talk about the 757 podcast show, man. Let's talk about that a little bit. You guys got together, and what started that idea to do a podcast?
So the Vick 757 show with yours truly and Michael Vick, talking all things tech. Right before the season started, I was in my office and Mike texted me and said, "Cuz, got a minute, I want to talk." And I was like, "Sure." So Mike called me and was like, "Yo, I know you got Victory Life going on. That's my other podcast, Legacy Spotlight." He said, "But I was thinking about doing something and I want to do it with you." And I was like, "Okay." He said, "You already do all the stuff you've done, because people don't realize, man, I've done radio shows, the pregame show for Virginia Tech. I was the color analyst for the Virginia Tech 2013 spring game. So I've done television and all of that. And Mike obviously does television, but he wanted to host it with me. So he was like, let's get it. We didn't even have a name or anything. So I came up with the Vic 757 show because we're both from the 757. I wore 5'7", he wore 7.
He wore 7. That's dope.
Yeah, he wore 7. See how that came together? The
like
picture
me and KJ,
already had
27. Yeah.
yeah. See, that's God. Look at God. So then I called Mike and I was like, "You like this name?" He said, "I love it." I said, "We need a tagline." He said, "How about talking all things tech?" And I said, "There you go." So the show has been a major. Yeah, the show has been a major hit. Like
yeah,
I am always going to be a proud Hokie, but I like talking other things besides tech. I mean, obviously, I follow sports, I follow other schools, but if you follow my legacy and what Virginia Tech has done and what I've done for tech, I mean, I've been the keynote speaker there for the 9/11 memorial service. I was part of the Black Institute panel for incoming African American freshmen. I've been recognized by them with many awards. So like, it was Tech and I have a great marriage. My wife went there. Mike and Marcus, my other cousin Octavia went there. She got her law degree there in political science. I have another cousin there named Califia. So like, but at the same time, man, the podcast for Mike and I is really cool, man. We got great chemistry. We picked up 2 sponsors, man, and we got almost 2,000 subscribers. I don't keep up with all that stuff. I check it when we, get back going. But we've had some great guests on. I can't get everybody on right now, but I'm working on it, man. Antonio Freeman, Sharon Stith, Andre Kendrick, William Boatwright, Melendez Bird, Trey Turner. Got some really great things coming up. So, I mean, it's really cool to work with Mike. One thing Mike and I always talk about is that we always wanted to play together. We always wanted to play at Tech together, but it just didn't work out that way. So we able to do business together. And it's really cool, man, doing it with my cousin. We're distant cousins, but we're still close. So I love the fact that, we can talk sports and still have fun. I'm proud of him, just like I'm proud of my other cousins and my sister and everybody else that I love. I'm proud that people are seeing someone beside what the narrative the media wanted to create when he got caught up. So, I mean, I never thought I would be having 2-3 podcasts: Victory Life, Legacy Spotlight, the Vick 757 Show, Legacy Podcast with my guy Danny Noakes. Like, you know, where I've been and where I'm going is pretty amazing. But I can't really sit back and get complacent and rest on my laurels, because that's how you fall off. But I stay hungry. I stay working as far as just wanting to be great. I think my wife said it best one time. She said, "You're very competitive." So always need something for me to do to stay competitive. So I'm not even competing with other podcasts, but just wanting to do that great the same way I've done other stuff in my life great.
There you go.
I think it comes from having that structure and always going to practice from years as a kid all the way up until,
no doubt,
going to college. And when you got that free time, it's like an emptiness there. So you got to do something to channel that energy, whether that's going to the gym, doing a podcast, or even writing a book or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt.
As long as you can try to monetize what you're trying to do, and it's got a purpose behind it, and you have people that support it and they can see the vision. Yeah, just keep pouring into it, man.
Yep. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
What is your advice to the youth right now in today's society? Like,
my advice to the youth in today's society, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my advice to the youth, man, is don't be afraid to be different in the right way. Don't be afraid. Like, if you talk to, I'm very popular. I got a lot of people that check for me. I got people that pray for me. I got people that support Victory Life. And, I got an AAU organization. I just started just 2 years ago. We already got 4 teams. I got so many young men and women and mothers and peers of mine that look to me for advice and guidance and support. That is not by accident, but it started when I was a little kid, like listening. Sometimes, in many cases, if you're silent, you can learn a lot more when you're not talking, because you can pay attention and learn and listen. So my advice to them is to take advantage of your resources. Don't be afraid to strive for success, and don't just become an athlete and think that's all you are. Every time you see a young black kid, male or female, oh my God, you're so tall. You could be an athlete. You can play basketball. No, you can also be an engineer, a business owner, an entrepreneur. You can also be a principal. You can also be a general manager. You can also be a barbershop owner. You can also be a successful father or mother. And I tell them that you're going to deal with adversity. You're going to have some long nights and early mornings. Sometimes you're going to feel like it's not fair, but that's just part of the process. I'm very successful now, but people don't see the pitfalls and mistakes I made along the way. When I spoke at Penn State, I've spoken at Norfolk State, I've been in other places, but people don't realize several years ago I was speaking in front of 2 people. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand that hard work is part of the process. And don't be afraid to be great, and don't be afraid to give up stuff. Don't worry about binge watching stuff on Netflix and Hulu. Don't worry about what's going on. If you want to be successful, you're going to miss some stuff. But it's okay, because there's going to be another time you can do that. But you only have a few moments to be great in life, right? So you got to strive for that and understand that it's okay to be different in the right way. Don't be a follower. Don't get caught up. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, because if you make the mistake, learn from it. And that's what I tell the youth all the time, men and women, young men and women, young girls and boys. And to my young African-American men, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't understand something, seek knowledge. When I was at Virginia Tech, I'm being honest with you. When I was at Virginia Tech, I remember in my lectures, this is a big university, and I would sit there and watch my peers, girls, come up to the professor. Can I talk to you? I don't understand. And they would get extensions on papers and help. And I was like, oh, they're not smarter than me. They just using their resources. They went to tutorial hours. So education is your biggest asset. The more knowledgeable you become, the more inspired and powerful you become, the more you can do anything. Everything I've done in my life, I've been told no. I've been passed over for promotions. I've been cut by the Ravens. I've been ridiculed, gossiped, lied about, but look how good I have it, because I never believed in what the negativity was being said about me. I strive to fulfill my goal and dream because I believe in myself, and that's all you need. Too many people are worried about approval. I tell young people all the time, don't worry about what they say, because most people are insecure and scared to step out on faith. Once you do it, they're going to follow you. So, you know, I'm just in a blessed situation, man, because I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in helping other people. I donate my time, my money, and my spirit to uplift people, and I think that's the way to go. That's just my journey. You ask anybody that knows me, I've been the same Vick pretty much from day one. I think when you're consistent and you're reliable, people trust you and they respect you. I think if you want to be with everybody else, you really don't know who the heck you are, right?
Right.
So I think that's the way you got to be. And I think that's why people follow me. That's why people believe in what I'm doing. That's why I think people trust my vision. That's why people believe in the Victory Life movement. They believe in what I'm doing. And I'm not here. My last point on this question, I'm not here by myself. My mom, my dad, my sister, my crew, you know, Joe, Jason, Tyrone, my wife, my sister-in-law, all my people from Tech, from Morgan State, from Howell, from Hampton, all my people from Lynchburg, my teammates, my professors, my teachers, Miss Corriere, you know what I'm saying? Like Miss Weaver, the principals, the ones that always stay with you and pray for you and ride with you. You're not going to get there alone. So don't be afraid to ask for help, because I'm here because people helped me and rolled with me and made sure I knew what I was doing, because once I reached out, they're going to reach back.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
That's great, man. So you wrapped it up. Two-part question. We was going to ask you if you had any shout-outs, but you just pretty much did it all.
Oh, I got too many people to shout out, man. All my VA Legends family, Victory Life Youth Sports, Victory Life, my wife, my team, my crew, everybody, Eric Brown, my son's basketball team, Patriot High School, my daughter, Sydney Vick, Lauren Vick, I love them, my daughters, everybody, man. Like, I'm loved. I'm loved because I love other people, you know. I know too many people. I mean, like, I can't name everybody and shout everybody out, man, but I'm appreciative of you guys giving me this platform. So it's all good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we appreciate it, Vic, man. We'd love to have you back on the show. It was a great podcast, man. You had a lot of interesting things to talk about and also very inspiring words for the youth. We'd love to have you back on the show anytime. Hopefully we can get you and Michael on and, you know, chop it up with you guys and just talk podcasts or whatever we want to talk about. We don't have to necessarily talk about football. We talk about life. So
listen,
I appreciate it, man.
I'm going to get Mike on. I'm going to work on getting Mike on me because y'all got highlights and montage. This was great. And let me just say this before we log off and I jump off, man. Shout out to everybody that tuned in. Subscribe to this great podcast, man. Let me see where it says.
Thank you.
Sports Shop 27. This is a great podcast. Also, to everybody watching and listening, make sure you take care of your mental health. Make sure you take care of your mental health. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a therapist. You know, take care of your mental health. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel bad, but just make sure you take care of your health, your mental, your physical health, man. Seek resources. All right. There's a lot of stuff out there. Don't be afraid. Okay. Just want to put it out there. But thanks again, gentlemen.
Man, thank you.
No problem, man. We thanks for you tuning in. You guys have tuned into a new edition of the Sports Shop 27. I'm your host, Jermaine Coulter, and to my far right, Kevin Johnson, KJ, my co-host. And we'd like to thank today's special guest, former Virginia Tech lineman. This guy right here is a philanthropist. He's a therapist, and he's a community activist. We'd like to thank, once again, Dwight Vick. All right? You guys make sure you subscribe to our show on YouTube and wear your mask. It's not how you start. It's how you what, fellas?
You already know.
It's how you finish.
We finished.
Yes, sir. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
God bless.
Be safe. Peace. God bless.
Yes, sir.